All right. Item number 29 is consider an update on the polling results of an increase to the utility user tax. Could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have a preliminary result of the survey from Fairbanks and 3M Associates, M3, excuse me. Again, this is a preliminary, it's just a draft. But the bottom line is that the voters of Carson, the residents of Carson, appreciate the high quality services that they receive through the city. And according to our preliminary results, about 87% would continue to support the extension of the UUT. 87%. The second number I want to share with you, Mr. Mayor, and the members of the council, is that even if the city council declared that there was a fiscal emergency, there would be still 83% support for the continuation of the UUT. Again, these are preliminary numbers. There's still more data to do, quite a bit of analysis, but and the consultant is far from completing the study and the survey, but at this point, this is what he was able to give us at this time, and that concludes the staff report.
Okay. Any council members have any questions on the staff report? I'll start out. Of course, this was a poll done by Fairbank, Maslin, Maulin, Metz, and Associates. And this poll was conducted in the very recently, right?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the poll started not this Saturday, the Saturday before,
okay,
Saturday morning, and it concluded, I think, this weekend on Sunday.
Okay.
So it took about 9 days to do.
All right, very good. And just let's see. I just want to give a little background here. In a special election on March 3rd, 2009, the voters of the city of Carson approved Measure C, a ballot measure which imposed a 2% utility user tax, commonly called UUT, on gas and electric usage for a 7-year period beginning July 1st, 2009. The utility user tax is paid by Carson residents and businesses and is collected and remitted by the utility service providers who serve them. The utility service providers then remit the tax payments on a monthly basis to the city's Administrative Services Department. I just want to mention that most cities in California have a utility user tax. And of the cities that do have this tax, our survey in the past years, not this one you're talking about right here, show that the Carson tax is lower than any other city in the area that has a UUT. And I think that's pretty significant. We're very frugal, and we're not taxing the people unduly. For example, a city right next door to Carson, Compton, has a 10% utility tax. Another city right next door to Carson, Gardena, has, I believe it was 4%. Another city next to Carson, Torrance, has a 6.5%, et cetera, et cetera. So the unincorporated county has a 4.5%, more than twice as much as what we have. So, say again? And on more items as well, yeah. Not just gas and electricity, but those cities also tax water, communication devices, landline telephones, cable service, that type of thing. So we are very frugal, and the money that we utilize from the utility user tax is wisely spent for essentials in the city of Carson, and keeps the quality of life in our city up. And so I just want to make that statement. Okay, no one else is queued up on this, so are we going to then go to the next agenda item? Because this was just a report. It's a kind of a receive and file. It's not an action item. So no one's queued up. So we're going to go to item number 30. Okay. Item 30 is reconsider adopting resolutions declaring a fiscal emergency, calling for a special election, that's consolidation, requesting preparation of an impartial analysis, and setting priorities for submitting arguments related to extending the term of the utility user tax from June 30th, 2016 by 7 years to June 30th, 2023. Just a little note to the city attorney. I was looking up parliamentary procedure. And generally speaking, if a person abstains, they surrender their vote to whatever the majority was, as opposed to surrendering it to the prevailing side. So you might want to look. I'm not going to debate that tonight, but you might want to check your parliamentary procedures on how this got on the agenda tonight.
Yes.
Okay. Let's now go to Council.
I'm sorry.
No need to answer that. Councilmember Robles.
Well, point of clarification.
Oh, state your point of clarification.
The comment you just made, if you can just clarify that, because are you making an assertion that because someone abstained, that abstention goes to the prevailing side, and then if you are you using that situation to the situation why this agenda item is before us today as a rationale that it shouldn't be before us today?
I'm not making that argument. I'm
Okay.
just informing the city attorney that I think there may be a debate as to the understanding of the process, but I'm not saying this should not be on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
Okay? Let's go with Councilman Robles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to try to minimize my comments because, this argument was presented last time, our last city council meeting, and the biggest concern that I recall from our last discussion was that we didn't want to jeopardize the utility tax because if it did not pass, it would create not a fiscal emergency, but a fiscal catastrophe for us here in the city of Carson, because it's such a large part of our general fund budget. And so the poll was done to help ascertain where the residents were and whether or not they would be supportive of having the utility tax on the November ballot. It was my position. And as was reported by the city manager in the previous item, 87% of our residents, and again, this is the polling company, not that I wanted, but that that was used last time, and that I think the opinion leaders, stakeholders in the city have a great deal of confidence in. Fairbanks is a very well-respected polling company. They're not a fly-by-night operation. Their polling technique is very, very well-respected and regarded. So for them to do a poll and to conclude that 87% of our residents are in favor of extending this utility tax, I think it would be the equivalent of I don't even know what the proper adjective would be, but for us not to allow the voters to express their opinion and vote to extend this utility tax in November, it'd be akin to malpractice as elected officials. If elected officials could be charged with malpractice and sued for malpractice, this would be it. For us failing to show leadership and putting this item before the voters, for them to express their opinion. The concern was expressed that, well, but if you said that the city was in a fiscal emergency, that would undermine the need for the utility tax. Well, again, as was shown by the poll, 84% of our residents would support it, even knowing that a fiscal emergency had been declared so we could get the item on the November ballot. So what we know for sure, because we don't need to declare a fiscal emergency to get it on the March ballot, we only need to declare a fiscal emergency to get it on the November ballot. So what we know for sure from this poll is that, again, if you believe the poll, that 84% of our residents would support this utility tax. And again, it should be 84% of the voters, because that's who was contacted. It was voters. It wasn't residents. It was the voters of Carson. 84% would vote for it this November if the election were held today. Again, the malpractice on our part not to put this issue before the voters. My understanding is that the vast majority of the same individuals that supported this utility tax last time support it this time. The debate is whether it should be on the November ballot or the March ballot. So I want to address that point now. There's a lot. Again, this poll was taken and asked people how would they vote. If the election were today, again, if you believe the poll, 84% would support it. But the election isn't today. The election is going to be in November. And a lot can happen between now and November. We could have another great recession. There could be some significant natural disaster. There could be any number of things could happen that would cause the voters to change their mind. There's no denying that. But there's also no denying the fact that if we wait until March, there's a greater likelihood that something may happen between now and March, because there's more time for something to happen between now and March as opposed to now and November. So anyone, our stakeholders who are in favor of the utility tax and are arguing that it should be on the March ballot as opposed to the November ballot, I, with all due respect, don't understand that argument at all. It makes no sense. Why would you want to postpone an election and allow for the opportunity for some disaster, natural or man-made, to occur that would change or undermine the support for this utility tax? I don't get it. Again, it'd be malpractice for us to even consider doing that. The other thing about doing it in November as opposed to March is that there are some, I mean, it was 84% that were in favor of the utility tax. It wasn't 100%. So there are some individuals that live in the city of Carson that are voters that are not in favor of the utility tax. Some of them spoke at our last city council meeting. They're not in favor of it. I mean, I respect their opinion for not being in favor of it. I get it. But what will happen if we wait until March is that small percentage of voters, because it's very small according to the poll, that small percentage of voters will become much more significant in March as opposed to November. The reason being is because there's going to be a greater voter turnout in November compared to March. We have more voters expressing their opinions in November compared to those that come out in March. That's a fact that's indisputable. And the other thing that's indisputable is people are more likely to vote being motivated against something than being in favor of it. Those who are opposed to the utility tax are more likely to come out and express their opinion than those that are in favor of the utility tax. That's an indisputable fact. And again, so if we wait until March, we are jeopardizing this city's continued fiscal health. And why we would do that, I don't understand, other than to speculate. And I've done that. And I suspect the reason that certain individuals, stakeholders, want to wait until March is twofold. One, they're not actually in support of extending the utility tax. They don't want to say that publicly yet, but they will later on. Or two, they want to change the utility tax. They want to remove the $1 million cap. They want to extend it to apply to water and telecommunications devices, whether it be land or cell phones. Or they want to increase it because they want to either well, I don't want to speculate as to, but those are the reasons. Those are the reasons that I can come up with as to why people want to extend it. Because, again, if you're looking at this objectively and you're analyzing and you're trying to decide between November and March, it's a no-brainer. It's as easy. It's an easy decision, bless you. It's an easy decision. There's nothing to think about. There's nothing to debate. There's nothing to discuss. I'm complete for now.
That was an excellent closing statement. Okay, anyone else want to queue up on this? Okay, that being the case, let's go to a vote.
We don't have a motion on the floor, right?
Well, that's just about what we were going to do just now.
Mr. Mayor,
Okay,
respectfully, I'd request that you vote on the resolutions in the order they're listed on page 2 and 3 of the staff report.
okay,
When you say in order to do them one at a time?
Yes, sir.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
move that we approve resolution number 14-066, a resolution of the City of Council of the City of Carson, California, unanimously declaring fiscal emergency pursuant to Article 13C, subsection 2B of the California Constitution.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, there's a motion and a second. Okay, on the debate of the motion now. This is a question to city attorney, city manager. If there's a declaration of a fiscal emergency, what practical effect does that have, if any?
It frees you up to vote on the rest of the motions that are on the agenda.
Well, I know that, but other than that,
So far as your lawyer is concerned, it has zero effect.
okay, how about our city manager? What do we, if we declare that, what are we saying to the public? You may express your professional opinion.
I think it's just as the word says, you're declaring that there's a fiscal emergency.
Okay.
I think it's self-evident.
Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Let's now go to Councilmember Robles.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to address that.
Sure.
Again, this was asked in the poll, and 87% were in favor of it without us declaring a fiscal emergency, and 84% are in favor of it with us declaring the fiscal emergency, which is, you know, a legal hurdle that we have to overcome before we can vote to put this item on the ballot. So what are we saying? The voters have spoken clearly. Nothing. It's insignificant. It's just a legal hurdle that we need to overcome. And, you know, procedurally, in order to get this on the ballot, it needs to be approved unanimously. All of us present here today have to vote on this to get it on the ballot. The next resolutions, and City Attorney can correct me if I'm wrong, the next resolutions to come up do not have to be approved unanimously. But this first one needs to be approved unanimously.
Okay, let's go to Councilman Santorina.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Member Robles explained very, very clearly exactly where his stand was coming from. But I would like to go into this. If the city manager can, I would like to hear, and please read to me exactly the wordings that were, the survey wordings that were exactly asked of the people to answer. And the reason why I'm asking this is because I am now saying that the people did understand. And that's why the need for this, and that's why they voted. That's why the results were 84%, 87%.
Yes.
I just want to make sure, you know, that the people that we are discussing here,
Mayor,
words that were acceptable and understood by the people, why we have such a favorable
so I don't have
responsive.
the exact wording of the questions in front of me. What I have here is the summary of the
Please.
results.
I still want to hear it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I can't really answer that
Oh, you
with
mean the
precision.
results? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes, I
So you
have
don't
the
have the wordings?
No, because there was a series of, I don't know, at least 2-3 dozen questions.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's a compilation. When I'm giving you here's a compilation of the sense of the respondents, as opposed to a precise answer to any one precise question.
If my memory serves me right, I also remember you shared with us, you asked for comments from us as to the verbiage, I think. And I remember that it was clearly delineated there why there was a need for these. Okay, for
Yes. I think I understand now the question better.
that's my question.
Yeah,
In
so-
terms of addressing the citizens' needs of services to this, and all kinds of, you know, I'm sorry, I don't have the wordings myself, but I
Right.
just want to make sure that that was one of the reasons, I
Well,
guess,
the
you know, why the
question-
people were
The question was...
receptive to that idea.
Right. So the question, the general question, was whether the voters would vote to extend the UUT, and the UUT is used to support
There you go.
various services such as gang prevention,
There
youth
you go.
services, the stroke center that we have,
Mm-hmm.
the police services that we have,
Yes.
all the youth and adult and senior services that we have.
Yes.
So it's the whole range of the services that Carson is known for.
Mm.
That was the point of the question.
Correct.
And so
Vital services.
the
of
vital
city.
services, yes.
And that is why, and that's the reason why the percentages that have been mentioning here, the favorable percentages and the favorable responses to the survey came out to be that way, because we were so clear in letting the people know exactly where that the money will be spent on our people.
That's exactly
you.
correct. And if I could go back to the mayor's question, I think I understand a little better now. Is the practical effect is if there's a fiscal emergency and then as city manager, then I have to reevaluate I'm always looking at the budget, but that would mean that I would have to take another look at the expenditures that we're recommending, that we're proposing as far as this year and mid-year adjustments and things like that if we are in that situation.
Mm-hmm. And that is why...
That's the practical effect. Now I understand the question.
I just want to make sure that we are going to decide, we are basing our decision on objectively. You know? Okay, thanks.
That's absolutely correct.
Okay, no one else is queued up. Let's go to a vote. This vote requires the unanimous vote of 5 in order to declare a fiscal emergency. I do have one question. Oh no, I won't go into that right now. The question is more about the utility tax and the election, but we're not at that point yet. So it's a question for another one of the alternatives if we were to get to them. Now, there were some alternatives other than November and March. Theoretically, a special election, which would cost maybe $200,000, because November would cost $100,000, and March would be fairly insignificant, almost nothing, because we already have a ballot. But we do have other opportunities. Isn't that true? Like in June or November of 2015, as long as we do it before the expiration. Actually, theoretically, you don't even have to do it before. You could do it after, but it's practical to do it before. It expires, I believe, in the month of June of 2016. So we need to do it sometime before that, in order to make it smooth and a continuing collection of taxes.
Mr. Mayor, I think the city clerk can address some of those election issues, but in terms of operations, we need as much lead time as possible. I mean, this is a big deal. This is $8 million out of a $72 million budget. This is not scare tactic. If we don't have those $8 million, they would.
I don't think anyone on the council is talking about not having an extension. We're just talking about declaring a fiscal emergency or not.
Right. So
that's what we're talking about. So that's why I was hesitant to bring it up. But so I don't want to get into that until we're ready to get into that. But the city clerk wants to chime in on that. She can, but the city attorney also has a comment.
The only thing that I was going to add is, at any election that you want to put this item on the ballot that doesn't involve a council member running for re-election, you will have to adopt a resolution declaring a fiscal emergency unanimously. So if you don't want to put it on an election where a member of the council is up for election, you still got to go through this process.
I see. Okay. So it's really a debate then between November and March, right? Potentially. Otherwise, the other date's just like a November, just later in the year.
The only other conceivable date would be a special election to fill the unexpired term of an office of a member.
Would that count as a non-fiscal emergency required election?
I believe it would, yes, because it's a councilmanic election.
Right. Okay. Okay. Councilman Robles is queued up. You rest your case? Yes. Okay. All right, let's go to a vote on the motion on the floor right now. Please cast your vote. Okay, the vote is 4 yes votes. Mayor Deere, Mayor Pro Tem Santorina, Councilmember Robles, Councilmember Davis Holmes. 1 no vote by Councilmember Gibson.